This week in Pure Reinvention.
I think that's what happens in leadership, where we get kind of focused on just keeping the train on the tracks, even though the train may not be heading to anywhere that anyone wants to go anymore.
Episode 109, What Detroit Has Taught Us About Disruption.
Engage, disrupt, adapt, repeat. You're listening to Pure Reinvention, the podcast for curious people.
We are here with Monica Ware, president of Integrated Association Solutions. Detroit, in many ways, Monica, has taught us how to deal with disruption, but it's also taught us about disruption in its extremes, hasn't it?
It really has. It's a learning laboratory of the missed opportunities, I would say, in purposeful disruption.
We've captured individuals talking about how Detroit has reinvented itself every 100 years. We've talked about the reinvention of Cobo. We've talked about the reinvention of the waterfront or the riverfront. Each of those are very dramatic examples of how an entity, right, a municipality or a business or a thing, kind of gets used to its singular focus for so long that as the marketplace changes, as the needs of the residents, the needs of the customers change, if the business is not changing with it, it finds itself in a dilemma at some point down on the timeline, doesn't it, Monica?
You're absolutely right, Mike. And Cobo is a prime example of that. In 1988, they had 20 citywide conferences that were bringing people to downtown Detroit, were filling their hotels and restaurants. By 2008, that had fallen to 2 conferences. And one of those was the auto show that might not come back. There had to have been a lot of missed opportunities along that line to readjust, to make some corrective actions to Cobo and to start bringing people back downtown. But we had, I think, probably some political ostriches at that point.
Right.
They were denying the reality of the problem.
I think that's what happens in leadership, where we get kind of focused on just keeping the train on the tracks, even though the train may not be heading to anywhere that anyone wants to go anymore. And something as grand as the city of Detroit or something as grand as Cobo, it's hard to think about it in terms of either falling into disrepair or not being connected to the marketplace like what its true intention or its true opportunity. So the lesson for business owners, association leaders, those who aspire to be visionary leaders, strategic leaders, is that it's very interesting to watch what once were very viable and thriving entities over time, without staying connected to the marketplace or to the residents, can find itself at some point down the road very unattached to its marketplace or its residents. And that's not a very good place to be, is it, Monica?
It's not. I think there's a new philosophy that has me a little bit concerned. I read an article that talked about why disruption was the wrong strategy. And I think that they were really misconstruing disruption, and they lost track of relevancy. What we're really talking about are making those small adjustments along the way that will keep an organization viable, that will keep them relevant in their space. There were so many things that were becoming a bigger focus in Detroit: the corruption, political scandal, and those ended up being some of the things that actually probably helped save Cobo when they readjusted. Mm-hmm. Finally, was this new political structure, this new focus on accountability.
So there's a really interesting example that we have been using in these podcasts, which is the story of Detroit, the story of Cobo is kind of examples of what happens when things go too long and you don't address the realities as they've existed for some period of time. So if we don't want that as a result, right, the real serious disruption, the municipal bankruptcies, the tremendous reinvention of Cobo, the tremendous reinvention of your own business or organization or professional development, if we were even to take it that far. If we don't want to have those massive disruptions, then we have to accept the fact that we have to stay in very small, minor disruptions on an ongoing basis, right?
Absolutely. The communication model that's used in public relations really fits here. And it's a standard business model if you look at it. It starts with research, moves to an action or planning stage, communications, implementation, and evaluation. And it's that evaluation stage that most people forget, especially in business. How is what we're doing working? And we don't take the time in businesses or associations often to evaluate, are we really in tune with our membership? Are we in tune with our marketplace? Are we meeting the needs of our customers? And if we don't, then we can very quickly lose relevancy.
Have you enjoyed our Pure Reinvention podcast? Are you ready to begin your own Pure Reinvention journey? Join our next Starters Experience May 4 through 5 and May 24 through 25 in Detroit. Learn the 5 fundamentals in an engaging and interactive way. Contact us at purereinvention.com today.
So, Monica, in your example, you talked about the first step being market research. Well, if I understand market research well enough, it's making sure that you are providing what your market is interested in purchasing. If you're a municipality, what your residents need or demand from you in the service sector. But all of those things suggest that the entity has to stay very closely connected to whoever it's accountable to, whether it's the taxpayers, whether it's the group of individuals who are buying services from Kobo. As a business, leaders have a responsibility to stay very connected. And so the choice becomes either do a massive disruption every 20 or 30 years when things get kind of out of shape, when you have such dramatic declining membership or declining revenue dollars. But I think companies are learning that if they can stay through their market research and through their connectivity to the marketplace, if they can just have minor disruptions, introducing new products, introducing new ways to do business that reflect the way their constituents are doing business. So using as an example, the retail market sector has been forced to deal with Amazon. There has not been a choice. As a retailer, you either understand that Amazon is your major competitor, or you're going to have a fate that's probably not going to be something that your shareholders are going to be happy with. You take a look at cable companies significantly disrupted the standard CBS and NBC, the standard networks. Now we have companies like Netflix that are disrupting the cable companies who had disrupted the networks. All of those being driven by the customer.
And the savvy businesses will look for those gaps and fill in. That's that entrepreneurial spirit.
Monica, I'd like for you to spend a few minutes and talk about the importance of kind of this entrepreneurial thought process as a leader, and how disruption is really intended to be opportunity.
Opportunities present themselves every day that someone could grasp onto and build a business or expand their business. And it really comes down to, what do they have the passion for? Because if they don't have the passion that fits that model, it'll never take off. The entrepreneurial spirit, you have to have that same propensity to cater to that business that you would your family. And that definitely takes a different type of person to take ownership and grow that.
So through disruption, the wise leader is able to navigate and forge next step opportunity. I mean, it's an absolutely phenomenal thing. So, Monica, you were a co-host with me when we talked about Judge Rosen. Judge Rosen had a full caseload, would spend his evenings putting groups and teams of individuals together to mediate a never-before-done bankruptcy solution that will probably be a significant model and example for others who will be sure to follow. Now, Judge Rosen, as his caseload manager had explained to us, owned every step of that. And so as an entrepreneur, if it's going to be, it's up to you, right? I mean, Monica, isn't that even your business model?
It is. My business model is really to surround companies or associations, organizations, and help them meet their needs. I think all too often we look at what do we have inside, and we fail to look at what's on the outside that we can bring alongside our organizations to make them stronger.
Detroit is a marvelous example of how disruption opens the door to new opportunity. And I think everyone who has been disrupted would be the first to tell you that it's not always pleasant or comfortable. However, with the right strategic leadership, it is the doorway to what's next. And for that, I think we can be very appreciative for having Detroit as a learning laboratory that we can get into on a regular basis and study almost every aspect of disruption that exists. So if you're ready for a change, make it a change that lasts. Make it pure reinvention.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pure Reinvention. Keep the conversation going and get alerts when new podcasts are up by following us on Twitter @Pure Reinvention or sign up for our mailing list at purereinvention.com.